steps, we then will sometimes resize things after that to then get our version 1 as to, okay, this is what we need for the highest priority. I'm not sure that I'm actually going anywhere at this point. What's our highest priority items that we need to do? So if at the bare minimum you need to get the regulatory thing addressed, that would be like, I need this, and if you can put a date to that, you'll see the development group going, well, okay, that maybe that isn't a must to do that, and they'll throw things down into version 2. But it's best to do that with the development group, because then they don't feel like they're being told. And everyone, by having everyone, like you were saying, like all the business people, and the developers in that room together, kind of just putting this plan together, you can then say, okay, this is 1, 2, and maybe 3. It usually falls out that way. I don't know why 3 always ends up bigger. But then when you finish one of the steps, like I said, the steel thread, you kind of do a mini one again, just to rebase, to make sure that your sizes are still the same. Because I'm sure you can do it. After a steel thread, you're like, I know so much more now. This one that I thought was a 13 point, it's 2.
I haven't heard
steel
thread.
Steel thread.
Oh, I'll let you go.
No. It's that one. When you're developing a system, you have a critical path.
Okay.
You meet a thin testing the system end to end. Am I describing? Would you describe it?
Yeah. So in the example of I need to get in, I get up, throw clothes on because I need to go out dressed and get in the car. Like that might be a steel thread to get there.
It's all your
What did you?
must-haves?
Yeah. Oh, the kids. What do I do with them? I don't know. I just went out the door. Someone else will take care of that.
Okay, just one question would be, what's a good reading material for this topic? What's good reading material for this topic?
Jeff Patton.
Yeah.
Jeff Patton's
You
book.
mentioned
Do
an
you like the
O'Reilly book?
impact,
That was Jeff Patton's book.
Oh.
impact mapping? That looks like a no.
Yeah, I'm going to defer on that.
There's an Atlassian video. I'm sorry, I don't remember the HTTP, but I think if you look at story mapping, there's an Atlassian, a pretty decent one that they have on there as well. It was a year ago since I saw it, but I remember it being pretty decent.
So in terms of the requirements gathering aspect, would that just be doing continuing, iterations of the story mapping, or just?
Well, you just don't do it once.
Yeah.
So you don't do it once. Just like you shouldn't, if you're going to break out your requirements, you just don't do the requirements. Projects don't just stop; they go operational, and they continue either fixing issues or you continue development on something. And so, same thing with your roadmap or your product line. You're going to do a story mapping exercise, and you're going to develop, and you're going to learn new things, and then you should. And again, it's validating some earlier assumptions, and again, remapping. Maybe our market space has changed since the last time we did a story mapping. So I would say you should have a regularly scheduled story mapping session.
If it's uncomfortable, you're doing it right.
Well, that's good to know because it's been very.
I remember that. That's a good.
We've got a tie here.
Do we have a 4?
Oh, we don't. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Goodness.
Team size, shifting teams.
Okay.
Marcia.
So that was mine. So our teams are a little bit bigger than the average size team anyway, and then we had a need to stand up a special team to get a particular effort done. The original idea was that this team was going to be stood up for a full year, and then it would disperse and members would go back to their original teams. So there were a few new resources hired from the development perspective, but most of the members were coming from other teams. So the existing teams were impacted by this. Well, the effort ended up being big enough that the one team wasn't going to be able to do it. So it was split. It ended up being split across 3 teams, and it did get done, and the deadline got met. And it was successful. However, now we have no backlog. And we have 5 teams, and then a scrum master that's doing double duty, and a product that's doing double duty over these this extra team. And some of the analysts are now being split over 2 teams, which is also less than ideal. So for the next release cycle, we're going to leave it in place, but we wanted to look at what to do beyond that, whether whether the original need of having it stood up for a full year is just no longer what's needed, and should we go back? And if we do go back, is there a particular way to go about that that's less impactful to all of the teams?
Do you have a backlog for other people to work on? Because right now it seems like we finished it and then there's nothing to do.
Right, that's kind of what has
no.
happened. So there's a big effort that's coming like in third and fourth quarter that has a lot of dependency management with it. So some of the teams are going to be very focused on that effort. However, if that gets delayed, there also needs to be other things that need to be worked on. And then there's a product team that just got stood up that's supposed to work on some other initiatives and have those feed down. But all the efforts that they've come up with so far are also pretty large things that can't just be sort of pulled down in the meantime and have people work on them. So it's actually two questions. It's one about,
The first one
the
seems
backlog.
like the backlog.
Yeah, the backlog.
I'm sure the team have a bunch of architectural projects that they would like to work on.
Yeah, but
Sometimes
the architecture team is,
refactoring, right?
Yeah.
You could go in and refactor the code and bring it all up to whatever your current standard is if you've got a lot of legacy code. So the question,
Technical
part of it's, if you don't have projects that plan to start until Q3, you've got 6 months of time for however many teams. So my question would be, what work do you want these teams to do in the next 6 months? And that would tell me a lot about what I wanted the team structure.
So some challenges to let's just work on refactoring, right? It sounds like a really unique position if there is no backlog, right? It's like, well, hold someone accountable to it. It's like, well, it's like, so, because what will happen if you have a backlog and they are ready to say, let's work on this, teams always want to do refactoring. Now, I'm sure there's some technical improvement we can make. And the question is often, well, why are you going to work on that? So a lot of the